Welcome to today's episode of True to Form with your host, President and co-founder of Crystal Clear, highly regarded speaker, and two-time Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Tim Sawyer. True to Form is a podcast that highlights leaders making headway in the aesthetic, anti-aging, and elective medical industry. Learn from the experts to discover the secrets of success and pitfalls to avoid when growing all aspects of your elective medical practice. This week's episode is brought to you by TouchMD, the all-in-one aesthetic technology hub that educates your captive audience in the waiting room and consult room, consistently captures and manages photos, provides digital charting and consents, and allows patients to take their experience home to share what they learned with friends and family via the Practices Patient app. Please join me in welcoming your host, the authentic, the transparent, Tim Sawyer.
Hello and welcome to True to Form, the podcast that connects you to the people, technology, and hot topics that shape the elective medical community. Provided to you by Crystal Clear Digital Marketing and brought to you by this week's sponsor, TouchMD, the leading all-in-one aesthetic technology hub. I'm your host, Tim Sawyer, and to our returning guests, we say welcome back. And for our first-time listeners, we appreciate you joining us and encourage you to become a subscriber. Last week, we spoke with a successful entrepreneur, Dr. Nicole Norris, in which she talked about her transition from practicing family medicine to opening up her own medical spa, super successful medical spa, by the way, and the power of having to do whatever it takes to succeed in both business and life. If you missed it, we strongly recommend you check it out. And with all that said, and just when you thought it couldn't get any better, once again, we're going to take it to another level today. As promised, we bring you the real movers and shakers. And today we head over to Texas, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sam Lam, owner of Lam Facial Plastics. Dr. Sam Lam is a diplomat of the American Board of Head and Neck Surgery, the American Board of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery, serving as president of the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery in 2021. Congratulations, by the way, Dr. Lam. And Dr. Lam is also, you're welcome. And Dr. Lam has also served as chairman of multiple committees for the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery and the International Society of Hair Restoration Surgery. He has written 8 major textbooks, over 250 published articles, has been an editor for multiple aesthetic journals. He is currently on the editorial board of the JAMA Facial Plastic Surgery and has been featured on ABC, CBS, Fox, Telemundo, curious to hear if you speak Spanish, Oxygen, the CW,
no,
CNN,
mucho.
Boom, CNN, Nightline, and the New York Times. He is the owner and operator of a 40,000 square foot wellness center in Plano, a suburb just north of Dallas, Texas. Dr. Lam practices exclusively facial plastic surgery and hair, and his latest venture is his stem cell OVA skincare line. You can find him at www.lamfacialplastics.com. So, Dr. Lam, welcome to the program, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Tim, I'm a facial plastic surgeon and a hair restoration surgeon. I do both. My background is after I finished my head neck surgery residency, I realized that I really wanted to be a creative professional. And so what I love about what I do is being able to bring my art to work every day. And that is just a real passion of mine, is to be able to do something very artistic.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Lam. It's so funny that you said that. So a couple weeks ago, I interviewed a really cool Beverly Hills cosmetic dentist. His name is Dr. Lawrence Rifkin.
Okay.
And one of the things that he told me was, and he focuses not just on the mouth, but the whole face, right? And one of the things that he told me was his interest, actually he does pottery, he does sculpting, and that artistic part of his life, he's been able to, I hate to say commercialize it, but in a way he has, right? So he can use it, he can tap into that artistic piece to create beautiful faces. So is there any type of art that exists in you? What do you do to tap into that artistic expression?
Well, I mean, every part of my life is art. I do all the paintings for my building. I've done all my logo designs, all my textbooks I've written. I've done the illustrations for.
Wow.
I do, like, even the house I'm building right now, I'm looking at every lighting fixture, every furniture. Every part of my life is about art. And so when I approach the face, I'm sort of a pain in the butt in terms of being an artist, because, artists are a pain in the butt in certain regards, because I do not like things that look unnatural. A lot of patients tell me, hey, I'm always scared to look unnatural. And I always tell them their standard of unnatural is actually lower than mine, because I can look at things and I can see across the room that something looks fake and they may not see it. And so that is really what makes even things like injectable fillers, things that would be mundane to maybe a surgeon. For me, it's fun because I'm actually designing. Every little thing I do is design. So it's a ton of fun.
So do you do some injectables yourself? And
yeah, I do all of my own injectables. The way I look at it, I know this is probably a weird analogy, but it's like Apple Inc., because Apple controls the software, the hardware, the entire expression of their design from beginning to end. And I always believe that if I do a beautiful rhinoplasty on a patient or blepharoplasty, and I give the injectables to someone else, they're going to look overdone or weird. And at the same time, if I do great injectables and I don't do a good rhinoplasty for the patient, or hair restoration, they're not going to look right. And it's also nice when a patient walks through the door, I'm able to offer them the full gamut of things. So a lot of times if you go to someone who does injectables, they're going to talk you out of the facelift. They're going to say, that's scary, you're not going to get a good result. I just need to inject my way out of this. And I think that's a bad way of doing it, because a lot of things cannot be done non-surgically. At the same time, you talk to someone who is only a surgeon and relegates all the injectables over to his staff, then everything has to be surgery. And they're not controlling the design. A great example for me is, let's say I do a fat grafting or fat transfer, where I make the face look volumized in a very gentle way that doesn't look like a pillow face or overdone cheeks. But they've got these little areas that they have further aging, little areas of some resorption of fat. I'll need a little filler touch-up. And if I give that over to someone else, then I really believe that I'm giving the patient the worst care that is. I even do all the neuromodulator Botox injections, because I believe that everything is expressed as an expression of my art, not just surgery, not just injectables, not just non-office-based things. Now, of course, like, radiofrequency, microneedle, other small office therapies that don't require that level of artistic touch, that is relegated over to my staff.
Wow. And I noticed that you at some point made a conscious decision to just focus on the face, right?
Yes.
What led you to that, which is kind of unique for a plastic surgeon? And so what led you to that?
Okay, so I'll try to keep this answer short. So in medical school, I was very fascinated by both medicine and surgery. I really had a hard time deciding between both of those specialties, because I love surgery and medicine. And the one that seemed to capture my attention was otolaryngology, ear, nose, and throat, head, neck surgery. So I did a head and neck surgery residency, and was fascinated by the anatomy. I think the head and neck area is the most complicated anatomy out there, and it's also the most impactful. People, I always say you can't put a bra on my work. In other words, you can't cover it up, right? It's right in front of you. But toward the end of my residency in head and neck surgery, and facial plastic surgery is a part of that, I started to realize that doing the same procedure over and over again did not allow me to have that creative output. And I absolutely crave, it's just in my lifeblood, I've got to do something creative. And so there was a gentleman, Gene Tardy, that came and lectured about rhinoplasty, and he was just amazing in his patrician stature, just talking about what he did and the creativity. And I said, this is what I have to do. And so that's where my passion started, and it was really ignited.
And I would think people would like that, right? From when we talk about some of the commercial aspects of the business, to how do you differentiate yourself in kind of a what could be sometimes a convoluted marketplace. And I would think your patients would appreciate that. That's what you focus on. That's what you do. And do you get feedback from people about that?
A lot of people choose me because the number one thing is they like the fact that my results don't look overdone. And a lot of people say, hey, I want to be conservative. But for me, conservative does not mean inconsequential. It means balanced. And everything looks balanced. And just an example to understand this is that, if someone is doing Botox all the time, and then their whole lower face looks aged. There's an unbalance to the face. And sometimes I'll tell patients the only other thing I do outside of the face are the hands. And so that the hands start to age and you've got a rejuvenated face and neck, that doesn't look balanced either. So I'm really looking at total balance. And that's what is part of the artistry, and that's what people are attracted to about what I do.
And how has, so obviously we live in the age of insanity on social media.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, totally.
You know, people call it the Kardashian age, whatever you want to call it. But
right.
Has that impacted patients' expectations? And how do you manage that when someone comes in?
You know, I always manage the expectations because I always actually answer, like, for example, I just had a facelift consult with a lady. She had seen 5 other doctors, and she said, I said, do you have any questions for me? She said, you've actually answered all my questions before I asked them. This is the first consult that happened. And,
wow.
And so what the point of this is that when I do consultations, I tell them all the pros, cons, limitations, all the questions they should ask me. I love that question when they said, are there any questions I should have asked you? I said, no, I've already answered those before you asked me them. So, and what I do for me, and just tying this into the concept of social media, the medium that has really worked for me since 2006 is YouTube. And I know that there's, you know, people are doing Instagrams, Facebook, and of course I've got a social media director that helps me guide me on those things. But my passion is YouTube because I'm able to communicate. A lot of people think, you know, YouTube is about just showing some graphic images of a facelift or a rhinoplasty. And yes, people do that. It's not what I'm about. I'm about communicating to them, you know, expectations. And so the reason why I think they have really good expectations is that they are already knowing who I am as a surgeon and physician when they watch my videos. And so this is going to be funny to tell you this, but almost every single patient says that they've watched my videos, and they spent tens of hundreds of hours watching my videos. And a lot of it, one of my most popular, like I'm going to San Diego right now and lecturing, and I'll be filming myself. So you can watch me give those lectures to other doctors. And so I think that's a huge interest.
Yeah. So what's the show that you're headed down to? We're going to be there.
Going to the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, and just heading out there. Yeah. Yeah,
that's a great show. Hopefully the weather's beautiful for you. So let me ask you this, because people always ask me, particularly young residents, right? They're trying to figure this out. And so was there anything as a kid, like were your parents doctors? Were they plastic surgeons? What got you to be psyched about this?
So that's a great question. So my father was a family doctor. He's passed on. But my mom had a great influence in me. But in certain respects, to give some advice for the next generation going forward, is obviously be inspired by your parents if they're good mentors for you. My parents were very good mentors for me. But at the same time, I made life choices that felt resonating to me personally. For example, I was an undergraduate history major, and my mother said, hey, what are you going to do with that? You know, this is stupid. Why do you don't be a history major? And I said, Mom, I love this. And it was the best choice I made. And the reason is I was able to learn how to write. And so like in my fellowship year, I wrote and published 39 papers. I can write a textbook literally within 2 months because it's not hard for me. I can write a chapter in one night. And in Steve Jobs in a Stanford address, and if any one of those young guys out there want to go into this field, I encourage them to watch that 12-minute video of him giving a lecture at Stanford. Talking about connecting the dots backwards, if you follow your heart of where you want to be, nothing is too hard, because if you love what you do and you're passionate, you're driven, you can achieve what you want. You just got to basically don't take no for an answer. So that's my first lesson to the next generation, is just be passionate about what you want to do. And same thing, my mom said, don't go to plastic surgery. She was in a grocery store saying, look at this fake looking woman. I said, Mom, one thing I'll tell you is I will never create that stuff because it's gross. And when you start to, you know, I said I have good taste. I know that's a little bit arrogant, but when you don't have good taste, you can't design good stuff. And I, you know, another thing that's is a big lesson for the young people that Ed Williams, my mentor, taught me is be a great leader. And a leadership is about knowing your limitations, and your staff already knows what you suck at. Okay, they do. It's obvious. Yep. And the culture all starts from the top down. And if you start blaming, hey, my staff is doing a bad job, it's a reflection of your choice in them and your leadership. So to me, this is such a huge part of what I do is try to lead better every day. And there are days that I don't lead well, but the one thing also it taught me is never lose control of your emotions. Don't get angry, because if you can't control yourself, you can't control anyone else. So I encourage everyone out there, the young generation, to read John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership and all his books, because it is a fundamental blueprint of how to lead.
I haven't read it yet, but I have it, and it's been sitting there for a while, and I gotta. You know what? I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I've had this conversation before, and I do a lot of traveling, and I probably do 30, 40 talks a year, probably just like you. And I was in Beverly Hills, and I won't say the name of the event, but one of the things they had me come in to speak on was leadership. And so the doctors were sitting in there all day, all different types of physicians, surgeons, and I got up to give my best 15 minutes on leadership. Of course, I've been president of 2 Inc. 500 companies and been in the elective medical space for a while, and kind of felt like I had something to say about it. And 70% of the room, as soon as I walked in, they saw the topic, everybody got up and left. And I thought to myself, I said, well, either nobody likes me or nobody appreciates. And I really do believe culturally, because we don't talk about it enough, right? As you go through school, there's no business courses, there's no leadership courses per se. You have to seek them out. And I think it's one of the most undervalued parts of what you do, because you can be technically proficient, which clearly you are, and your patients appreciate you, but there still has to be a world-class patient experience leading up to the procedure, following the procedure, and those people feel good about it. And so I'm trying to be a little bit of a champion of that and say, guys, we really need to pay more attention to that. So what advice would you have? So a guy's thinking about, or gal's thinking about right now, starting their own plastic surgery practice, and they're going to get a little team together, and what would you say to them to say, hey, listen, man, here's 3 things you really got to make sure as you build out your team?
I think a lot of things I already just mentioned are critical elements of this. You've got to get the right team on the together. If you don't have that, nothing else really matters. And part of the thing is, they say that you should hire smarter people than you, but you have to lead them higher. So a lot of people think, what is the difference with that? It means if you can only attract smarter people around you if you can lead them better. And I know that may sound a little controversial, but the concept is to inspire them to be better than who they are. And if you can do that, that is the cornerstone to everything. The second thing that I would say is take time to think about your business. There's a great book called The E-Myth Revisited. And a lot of people work in their business, on their business. I'm part of this group called Entrepreneur Organization. I would say take time to think about what is your vision. I always say you must have a vision for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And you can do what's called a hot pen exercise, where essentially you sit down with a sheet of paper and you just write everything about your personal, professional life, what you're focused on, what your goals are, and you're going to come with your subconscious, and it tells you where you need to be. And the next thing I would say is go to meetings. My friend just texted me, and he said, Sam, blah, 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 blah. And I said, hey, are you going to be in San Diego? He goes, no, I don't go to the meetings for the last few years. And he asked me some questions. He said, hey, are you doing PRP? I said, just as a point of reference here, PRP is dead. He goes, what are you talking about? I do PRP with surgery, but I said there's a next generation of exosomes, growth factors. I said, the fact that you're asking me this question, you're not going to hear my lecture on Friday. You're not going to understand that I'm 1 year ahead of the curve right now, because people don't even know this. And so my encouragement is go and get a peer group and learn from them. I have this group on Facebook, a private Facebook group called the Think Tank, and we're constantly sharing and feeding each other. Do not be out there by yourself. Work with your peers who are smarter than you, and that can fulfill your deficits of who you are.
I think that's what's interesting about that is that model sounds so simple, and obviously everyone should follow it, but it's amazing to me how many people think that they need to reinvent everything and do it by themselves. And so they cut themselves off from great people and peers. And I don't know if it's, self-esteem or ego or whatever it is, but I think you're right. I mean, we have to encourage people. And you know what's funny about the PRP issue Google, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Google just made an announcement that come today, effective today, they're banning any pay-per-click or paid advertising on Google for PRP treatment. You can't even promote that anymore on Google, nor stem cells or do-it-yourself gene kits.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually a huge ban. I did a whole series about it, but it was what they called speculative in nature. PRP, stem cells, gene therapy kits. There were 4 or 5 categories in there. Some of those topics are, you would think, are fairly mainstream at this point. To your point, almost passé,
sure.
Right?
Right.
And so, from a marketing standpoint, obviously, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And
yes.
And so, talk a little bit about, because you said you've got an in-house person doing your social media for you. And do you have a philosophy that you want to share associated with your social media strategy in terms of what you like to put out in the community? And
yeah, so I think I alluded to a little bit of it before. For me, as I said, YouTube really is my medium. It is my forte. It's how I communicate with patients, because just like this format where we can talk for a little while, people can start to understand my what I'm about, my philosophy, my all those elements of me. And whereas, like, for me, Instagram, Facebook, those other pieces, I just can't communicate as effectively who I'm about. Of course, you can put a before and after up, etc., but I can't communicate as well as I would like. So she's really in charge of a lot of that content. So I would give her the props. And you said, well, hey, Sam, what are you doing with this? How are you designing this? Honestly, I don't have a coherent strategy for those elements. It's really, I am in charge of my YouTube channel, and I produce videos.
That's your baby.
That is my baby, and that's really because people get me. I mean, if they get a photo of me on Instagram saying something, or a short 10-second video, it's not who I am. It's just not my personality,
So how did you end up in Plano?
Well, I'm actually raised in Dallas. So I was born in Hong Kong, came over when I was 3. So I've been in Dallas since I was a very young age. But Plano, at the time when I started my practice in 2001, was really just like a field. And yes. And, but it's just a place where I'm from,
And so, as a couple things, and then we'll let you go. So as we get ready to wind this down, so you're headed to San Diego. So I want to hear what you're going to be talking about, and then I want to hear what the next 3 years, 5 years looks like for your practice, and what can folks expect from you.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things. So the focus of this year has been on product development. Now, I still use a lot of great brand names like Oxygenetics for, wound repairs and things like that, for makeup camouflage. But I would say 95% of my product line right now I'm developing. Now, why is that? Several reasons. Number one is I have complete control in terms of the design of the packaging, all the way to the ingredients, higher quality ingredients. Of course, there's a better margin from a business perspective as well. Yep. And it's like I'm working on hair loss shampoo. It's taken me over a year of still the product development, hair loss pills, supplements, which are huge right now. If you look at where things are going, silicone scar gels, I could list a million things that I'm working on right now.
These will be private label?
Yes, exactly. Wow. And I've got multiple manufacturers working on it, but there's a great Latin saying, and this is probably a lesson for the young guys out there too, is festina lente, which means hurry slowly. So I'm always pushing it, trying to think about the next thing, but that's the first thing. And the second thing that I'm doing besides product development is I'm expanding my building is about 40,000 square feet, but I contain about 5,000 square feet in it. But I'm moving, for 17 years, I've had 4 major treatment rooms plus an OR. Now I'm expanding 7 additional rooms, new sterilization quarters, new photo rooms, new everything. And the reason for the expansion is there's a lot of these small, non-invasive type things. I've been really, really happy with radiofrequency microneedle, all these different small things, injectable meso hyaluronic acid injections. Those things are great because my staff can do it and they can offer the patient the full gamut of what I can do now. So that's the next 1-2 years. As mentioned, I'm incoming president in 2021 for American Hair Board. So there's a lot of work I'm doing with
Congratulations.
that. I'm also, thank you. And academically, I'm actually rewriting my FUE textbook. Sorry, guys, you should still buy it because it can take me about 2 to 3 years to finalize that. But academically, that's my biggest challenge is another edition of my textbook. Beyond that, having another kid.
Well, I want to hear before I let you go. I want to hear about the Ova skincare line.
Yeah. So Ova skincare. The premise. Right. So the premise behind this, I've had the skincare line for many years now, but one thing I realized was I wanted to pack in as much of the high quality ingredients as I can humanly place into a single product line. I said, look, as I said, with any products, there's good margins on it. I need you to pack it in with everything you can humanly put into this product. So Ova is universal. It's morning, night. It just makes the skin look amazing because I put everything plus 2 kitchen sinks in it.
That's amazing. Now, and your head, like I said, you're going to be down in San Diego. So you're working on this new textbook. You're working on product development. You've got a new skincare line. So my only concern is that, you might lack motivation and drive.
Yeah, you know what? I probably my wife and I do a little devotional in the morning using this YouVersion thing app, and she set up the devotional, which is I think it's called "You Need Rest." We're starting that in 2 weeks. So apparently that's a little subliminal message for me.
Well, I tell you what, I really, 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 really appreciated you spending some time. I know our listeners will be all fired up and pumped. Your peers are going to love what you have to say.
I'm honored.
Hopefully they'll see you down in San Diego. We look forward to the upcoming textbook. I know your patients love what you're doing. I read your reviews, and we encourage you to check out Dr. Lam at lamfacialplastics.com. You can go visit him this week for our plastic friends who are listening, and cosmetic surgery friends down in San Diego. And if it's I am going to use the title for this podcast came to me as I was with you, and it's going to be Hurry.
Crazy Surgeon?
Nope.
No, sorry.
Hurry Slowly.
Yeah. Oh, Hurry Slowly. I love it.
Hurry
Beautiful.
Slowly.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I feel like that's kind of you're a plotting guy. You've got vision, like you said. You're always thinking 1, 2, 5, 10 years out, but you're also a deliberate human. Meaning you're going to do what's right along the way and not just go fast. And I think
I want to plug one more thing though, if I can.
Yeah, please.
Really, 10% of my profits of my skincare line goes to stop sex trafficking. My book profits go there. I'm hosting an event for anyone in the Dallas area at 12 Cut Steakhouse. There is an event on October 10th. Which is to stop human trafficking, sex trafficking, which is a huge problem. I just want the world to understand what we're dealing with right now. And it's going to be at 12 Cut Steakhouse in Dallas. Please come October 10th, 6:30 p.m., even if you haven't RSVP. Small plug.
Is there a way that someone who's not local could go and donate to the charity? Is there a name of the charity?
Yes, absolutely. So it's Operation Rescue Children, which is working under the rubric of a 501c3 of lovejustice.ngo. The best way is send me an email that you're interested in donating, and I will give this over to the powers that be. And it's Dr. Lam, DRLAM, at lamfacialplastics.com.
You got it. Guys,
thank you so much.
Send him an email. Dr. Lam, I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope you enjoy your safe travels to San Diego.
Thank you so much.
Hope that's productive for you. And I look forward to seeing you on the road. I'm sure we'll bump into each other soon.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, I would love to meet you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of True to Form, brought to you by TouchMD, the all-in-one aesthetic technology hub. To learn more about your podcast sponsor, visit touchmd.com. And to learn more about your podcast provider, Crystal Clear, visit crystalcleardm.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show on all your favorite music apps, including iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and tune in to stay up to date with the newest episodes. Thank you for listening.